Dear brothers and sisters, the saints in Christ, welcome to a new episode. In this episode, we'll be covering the books of Maccabees. Some they say there are two, some they say there are three, some they say there are four, which is a mess. This is very common, this is very normal when it is Apocrypha books. In this episode, we'll be covering those two books, like according to Coptic Orthodox Church, and actually divide it into four sections. The first section is introduction. Second one, historical mistakes in these books. Number three, the deception and open lies, to try to find a reference in the New Testament regarding these two books in particular. Then there is a knockout from the book itself. Okay, let's start. Introduction. As a start, and this also could be considered as a knockout, as we mentioned before, these books are not considered as canonical books by the Jews, and this is their own job. The Lord entrusted them for this, so you cannot keep arguing about this. Second thing, as we mentioned before many times, that these books, the Apocrypha books, were only considered as canonical in the 16th century. The Council of Trent by the Catholic Church in the 16th century as a counter-Reformation movement thing. Like these guys, they say sola scriptura, and go on. There is also those much books and also the tradition, whether it is written or oral. All right. And by the way, the Coptic Church took these decisions from this council and adopted it, because actually the Coptic Church was not invited to any council after the Council of Chalcedon in year 451, because the Coptic Church was excommunicated in that council, and you can check this out in my episode number 8 on the channel. All right, so actually it was not there, so actually they're stealing the conclusions of this council. All right, but before that they didn't have a say. After that, just to say that this is whatever, and even to say it was considered canonical in the Council of Trent. So why you take the council? Why you talk about the Council of Trent while actually you were not there, you were not invited there, and you consider the Catholic as heretics, by the way. All right. Number three. The Coptic people, they say all these books were like considered by Saint Athanasius. No, absolutely, it is not mentioned. Now talking about the Maccabees, the Maccabees books were not mentioned in the Paschal Epistle of Saint Athanasius, number 39, as part of the canonical book. So it was not, and I displayed this before in the previous episode, in another episode, a previous one. Also, homily number 4 by Saint Cyril of Jerusalem, he mentioned the list of the canonical books, and these two books are not there. And also the Coptic Church, they say it is in the Apostolic Constitution. No, it is not. Let's have a quick look. I'll display only this one, just in case if someone was not attending. Here, let's just go to the last bit, number 3. It says, I understand it's in Arabic, but just to assure, these books only for the kids to learn something from it. And it says Judith and the 3 books of Maccabees. So even they say there are 3, these are 2, but in any case, there are 2, 3, or some even said 4. It is they are not mentioned as part of the canonical books, not mentioned like that. So when they say they are in the apostolic canons, no, absolutely trash. It's a lie. When they say Saint Athanasius, again, lie. When you say the other, like, they didn't mention actually about Saint Cyril, but I got it myself when I was doing my own research. All right. So whatever they say, they are lying, deceiving you guys. All right. All right. Second point: historical mistakes in these books. All right. These books are actually 2 books. All right. But I think And they are long ones, by the way. I think that they have about, each one of them I think have about 15, could be 16. I think one has 15, one has 16 chapters. I read all of them. Anyway, the first one actually has plenty of history about wars and all the stuff, and is not referring to anything in the other books of the Old Testament. So I leave this one. I didn't go in detail with this one, but the second one, quickly I found mistakes that can easily be exposed. The second book, if you get to chapter 1 and 2, you will find the mistakes. What are those mistakes? I can put them as the following. Number 1, they mention in detail after the return from the Babylon exile, building and consecrating the altar. All right. Actually, this job, if you read the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah, you will find that Ezra was the person actually did the building, or of course, using the people with him. Ezra was a priest and also a scribe. All right. So he took I can say the mission of building or rebuilding the altar himself and consecrating it. All right. Nehemiah was actually, we know the story that he built the walls of Jerusalem in 52 days. All right. In fact, in the book of Maccabees, chapter 1 and 2, the second Maccabees, they say, by the way, also the author is unknown. Okay. The unknown author says that the one actually who is leading rebuilding the altar and consecrating it, who offering the sacrifices, was Nehemiah. No, this is wrong. It was Ezra. Okay, it was Ezra, no, it was not Nehemiah. At the same time, the name of Ezra never mentioned there. And about the fence or the walls of Jerusalem is not mentioned there. So there is a big mix here, big mistake. Nehemiah was not the one who was leading the rebuilding of the altar and consecrating it by asking the priest to offer sacrifices, because Nehemiah was not a priest, but Ezra was a priest. All right. The third one, he mentions some superstition stuff about Jeremiah. Okay, because of time, I will not go in detail about this. However, if you only read chapter 1 and chapter 2, you will be all right with that. You will find this is easily, and you will need later on to read chapter 15, the last few lines, as we will read as the knockout. All right. So this is this second time about mistakes contradicting with some historical stuff in the Old Testament. Okay. Number 3. So we'll see now the famous priest is now trying to find a hole in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 and say, here, although St. Paul did not mention the word Maccabees, but actually this is regarding Maccabees. He is very gifted in this, but this is the wrong thing, by the way. This is not a wisdom from above. It is wisdom from the earth, from down, not from God, not from the Holy Spirit, but from the evil spirit, not the Holy Spirit. Okay, so let's watch this, and we'll come as much as you can try to understand. Otherwise, of course, when I explain, you will get it. All right. Of course, because of the language, you will not get the full explanation as I did it in Arabic. However, but I'm doing my best until someone from you guys will take over with better English than mine. So let's watch this and come back again.
ومعلمنا بولس الرسول ذكر بدون ما يقول كلمة مكابيين عن هذا السفر بعض السطور في رسالة عبرانيين إصحاح 11 لما كان بيحكي لنا عن إنجازات رجال العهد القديم. ختم بجزء مجمل كل المفسرين عرفوا أنه كان يقصد الفترة الصعبة دي. فيقول في عبرانيين 11: ماذا أقول أيضا؟ لأنه يعوزني الوقت أن أخبرت عن جدعون وباراق وشمشون ويفتاح وداود وصموئيل والأنبياء الذين بالإيمان قهروا ممالك. دي حصلت بقى مع المكابين. وصنعوا برا. دي حصلت في المكابين. نالوا مواعيد، سدوا أفواه أسود، أطفأوا قوة النار، نجوا من حد السيف. كل دي إشارات للفترة اللي تعذبوا فيها الجماعة اليهود المكابين. تقووا من ضعف. لما تقروا المكابين هتلاقوا كل كلمة من دول ليها قصة. صاروا أشداء في الحرب، هزموا جيوش غرباء، دي كانت واضحة قوي في زمن المكابين. أخذت نساء أمواتهن بقيامة، يعني في ستات قدموا عيالهم، ودي واضحة في المكابين، وقالوا يقوموا عند ربنا ولا يعيشوش هنا في الخطية. أو إشارة إلى بعض قصص قيامة الأموات زي ابن أرملة صرفة صيدا وابن الشونامي. وآخرون عذبوا ولم يقبلوا النجاة، زي اللي اسمه العاذار ده اللي احنا لسه سامعين حكايته. يعني في ناس اتعذبت ورفضت النجاة لكي ينالوا قيامة أفضل. يبقى واضح أنه كان بيتكلم عن زمن المكابيين، لأن القصة دي منها عشرات القصص اللي زي العاذار، الناس ارتضت الموت ولأنهاش تكسر وصية ربنا. طبعا الكلام ده مكمل معانا في العهد الجديد، آلاف وملايين من قصص الشهداء. وآخرون تجربوا في هزء وجلد، ثم في قيود أيضا وحبس، ورجموا، نشروا، جربوا، ماتوا قتلا بالسيف، طافوا في جلود غنم ومعدة، معتازين، مكروبين، مذلين. الكلام ده ينطبق بدقة على زمن المكابين، وهم لم يكن العالم مستحقا له. يبقى معلمنا بولس ذكر كل الفترة دي مجملة في عبرانيين 11 عشان يأكد لنا ان التاريخ ده كان معروف عندهم في وقت بولس الرسول، وكانوا بالنسبة لهم مثل أعلى للجهاد والاستشهاد والاحتفاظ بوصية ربنا. تائهين في براري وجبال ومغاير، الكلام ده ما نلاقوش خالص في العهد القديم إلا في سفر المكابين. حكاية الجبال والمغاير وشقوق الأرض دي يجوز احنا عندنا في العهد الجديد قصص كتير كده، لكن في العهد القديم تنطبق بالأكثر على فترة المكابين. تائهين في براري وجبال ومغاير وشقوق الأرض، هؤلاء كلهم مشهودا لهم بالإيمان لم ينالوا الموعد، إذ سبق الله فنظر لنا شيئا أفضل لكي لا يكملوا بدوننا.
Okay, was a bit long, but however, I'll summarize it, then we'll go in like in sort of detail. He says, our teacher Paul mentioned in the book of Hebrews chapter 11, the last bit, which we'll go in detail about it, that he says now he is talking about Maccabees, although he did not mention the word the Maccabees, and he's talking actually with guts, this guy, I mean Daoud Lamei. Why? Because he knows two things at least. Number one, you will trust him, but I would advise it's up to you. He is deceiving you. Number two, he's quite sure that you will not go and search behind him, or as in the first place, most people don't read the Bible, and even the readers say Abuna said that, but Abuna actually deceiving you, as you will see. All right. So, Father Daoud Lamei said, as of what is more shall I say, for the time will fail me to tell you about Gideon, Baruch, and the Samson and the Jephthah, also of David and Samuel and the prophets. He stopped here and he said whatever is coming after that is actually totally about the Maccabees, although he did not mention the word Maccabees. I mean St. Paul. So he said as of that up to the end of the chapter the talk is about the Maccabees. No, this is not true at all. If you read it, you will find actually it is more explanation about the above. However, I found that St. John Chrysostom, in his explanation or commentary on the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, about this particular verse, he says, now let's read together. By the way, it's in Arabic, but I translated. I could not get the English interpretation of Hebrews for or by John Chrysostom. So I got it from the Arabic one, page 350-351. So what does he say? Who through faith subdued kingdoms. He says, who through faith subdued kingdoms, as Gideon worked righteousness. Who are they? Now, who are they? Listen to this. Father Daoud Lamei says, as of these are the ones of Maccabees. But let's now read what John Chrysostom says. Who are they? They are the same ones who were previously mentioned in the previous section. So like he is going to mention like more details about those guys. So I repeat this again. They are the same ones who were previously mentioned in the previous section. So what Father Daoud Lamei is trying to say is twisting the verses in order to prove something is not really true. And the work of mercy here is called righteousness, obtained the promises. I think he talks about David and what promise he obtained. These are the ones that of his offspring shall sit on the throne, on whose throne. So all what we are going to read now has nothing to do with Maccabees. It is the previous people, all right, and also the prophets after came after Samuel. All right. So let's read now this and comment on it together. Understand and comment it. So, but as a start, he is deceiving you. Anyway. And what more shall I say? Excuse me. For the time would fail me to tell about Gideon and Baruch and Samson and Jephthah. Also of David and Samuel the prophets who through the faith subdued kingdoms. We explained this. Worked righteousness, obtained the promises. We have seen this because even St. John Chrysostom said that was David, like as an example, who took a promise that out of his offspring will sit all the time someone on his throne. The names Chrysostom said as David the promise. Now stopped the mouth of lions. So now when he talks about this, he's talking about whom? About Daniel. When is Daniel? Daniel, of course, one of the prophets after Samuel. So now, when Father Daoud Lamei said, he actually skipped this one. He just gave it a blind eye because it will expose his deception. All right? Quenched the violence of fire. Again, he escaped this one. He did not stop at this one because it will expose his deception, because he said as of now on it is about Maccabees. No, not about Maccabees, because in the Maccabees there is nothing said about like stopping the mouth of the lions or quenching the fire. So obviously, as Saint John Chrysostom said, he's talking about the previous, again about the previous ones, which the names he mentioned, or the prophets in general after Samuel. Escaped the edge of sword. Who escaped the edge of sword? He said, did the Maccabees? No, not necessarily Maccabees. David escaped the sword of Saul many times. And if we go in detail, we'll find also Elijah escaped the sword of Jezebel when he actually when he fled to Egypt. Out of weakness were made strong. Again, he said this is about the Maccabees, not necessarily. No. Samson, by the way, was made strong after weakness. You remember the story of Samson? Elijah, he was weak when he escaped to Egypt from Jezebel, but after that he came back again with new spirit. David escaped in weakness even before he was reigned physically as a king, because if you read in the first book of Samuel, there was a time when Shaul was chasing him, because Saul kept chasing David for about 15 years, trying to kill him before actually David became a king. During those 15 years, you will find sometimes David actually lost hope, and I would say is in lost faith that this is going to happen. But again, we all sometimes we lose our faith, or we get weak in our faith, and the Lord lifts us up and fulfills his promises to us. Became violent in battle. Yeah, you can say it on for David and the other ones that like David as well. Turn it to fight the armies of the aliens. John Chrysostom says this is what happened to the Jews when they came back from the Babylonian exile. I tell you what it is. You found this in the book of Nehemiah. When they started actually building the walls of Jerusalem, their enemies came and tried actually to discourage the people from rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And actually they had some fight, to the extent you will find this is mentioned in the book of Nehemiah. He said, we were actually building the walls of Jerusalem while everyone has his own weapon, like tied to his waist, like ready to fight if they attack us. All right. Women received their dead raised to life again. Again, Daoud Lamei here said, this is about Maccabees, and he went around the bush. Then he said it's also about the widow of Zerfa of Sidon and the Shunammite woman. In fact, the Holy Spirit meant only those two. These are the two that were in the mind of Paul when he was writing this. But he tried to reflect this on the Maccabees. No, my goodness, I can't believe it that he is really a very smart person. He is very much aware of the Bible, but unfortunately, he uses this gift to twist the verses, like to protect the organization that actually he works for. All right, next. Women, we'll finish this. And the others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain better resurrection. I'll tell you what he says. This is exactly for the Maccabees. I'll tell you what John Chrysostom said, by the way. John Chrysostom says, could be John the Baptist and James. All right, but I would agree with him on John the Baptist, but not James. Why? Because at the end of the chapter he says these ones actually did not see the fulfillment of the promise. But actually, yes, John the Baptist did not see it. Maybe the very first few sparks of it, but James, the son, the brother of John, did see actually the coming of the Messiah, his death, resurrection, and the coming of the Holy Spirit. So we cannot say James. You can say that exactly to the three young men. They were tortured, and Daniel tortured, and said, were willing to be thrown in the fire or to be dropped in the lions den, and they did not deny their faith. But the Lord, yes, saved them. But when they jumped into or were thrown in the fire or something or in the lion's den, they were not expecting that the Lord necessarily will save them. But say, no, I accept this, but will not deny my faith. What else? Still others had trial of mocking and scourging, yes, and of chains and imprisonment. I'll give you an example. I'll give you two examples of these ones. Jeremiah is under this one, by the way, but also there is a person is a prophet named Micaiah, the son of Imla, or I'll say it in Arabic, Micha ibn Yamla. So Micha ibn Yamla. However, his story you can read in, and I encourage you to read this story, by the way, 2 Chronicle chapter 18. I read the only part of it. The king of Israel, Ahab, said, take Micha and return him to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, thus says the king, put this fellow, this is Micha ibn Yamla, in prison, and feed him with the bread of affliction and water of affliction until I return in peace. Then Micha said, if you ever return in peace, the Lord has not spoken by me. And he said, take heed, all you people. So this guy, yes, he was afflicted and put in the prison. Jeremiah also, if you read the book of Jeremiah, many times thrown in pit full of mud, many times afflicted, scourged, and thrown in the prison more than once, by the way. So all, not necessarily the Maccabees, what actually was written there was meant to be for those ones, not the Maccabees. All right? They were stoned, yes. Zechariah, the son of Jehuda, the priest. You can read this story in the 2 Chronicle chapter 24, verse 21. I'll read this again. A person was actually stoned to death. This is Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, the priest. Also, the Jewish tradition say also Jeremiah was stoned to death in Egypt by Jews. All right. So, but you can read also this Zechariah, son of Jehoiada, that was stoned. Actually, he was stoned even in the house of the God, and the Lord Jesus Christ actually mentioned him. They were sewn in two. The Jewish tradition said Isaiah was sewn by the into two pieces by a saw. Were tempted, were slain with the sword. Yes, easily. He says, these are the Maccabees. No, not necessarily. The prophets of Yahweh at the time of Elijah. What did Jezebel did? She killed all, but not all. We see now there was 101 that's still alive, or 100 and could be 102 anyway. But she killed them with sword. Here we go. They wandered about in skin sheep. He said, these are the Maccabees, not the Maccabees. Elijah was going to in skin sheep. All right. John Chrysostom says the apostles, but I disagree with the apostles because he's talking about the Old Testament faith people, as we will see again. And goat skins, being destitute. I can mention this about David. Like he was mocked up by a person named Shamai ibn Gira. Shamai, the son of Gira, mocking David. Afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in desert and mountain, in dens and caves of the earth. This is very easy. He says, these are guys. No, not necessarily the guys. I'll give you examples now. In the time of Elijah, when the lady was, when Jezebel was killing the prophets of Yahweh, what happened? A person named Obadiah, he was a good man, and he mentioned to Elijah, he said, he hid 100 prophets of Yahweh, 50 in each cave, and he was actually feeding them with bread and water during the time where it was famine. So when they say, they were living like in the caves, and these people. Elijah himself, when he fled, because Jezebel is planning to kill him, actually fled to Egypt and desert of Sinai, where the mountain of Horeb, and actually he was there. This is another cave. David actually, during the time where Saul was chasing him to kill him, he kept going from one cave to the other, from one desert to the other. So why you twist this is stuff and say it's Maccabees? Because you would support your organization falsely. Okay. And all these, having obtained a good testimony through faith, did not receive the promise. That's why I'm against, or I disagree with John Chrysostom, because he says these names did not had received the promise. That's just they saw it from afar. But so I disagree with him when he said, this was the apostles, because the apostles actually saw the promise. God having provided something better for us, that they should not be made perfect apart from us. All right. Now, in addition to this, I would like now to surprise Father Daoud Lamei as the following. Father Tardross Yacoub has interpretation or commentary on the book of Hebrews, chapter 11. And by the way, when he explained it, he did not mention the word Maccabees at all. All right. And he said that regarding going in the skin sheep and all that stuff through the desert, he says, this is just some examples about the previous people of the Old Testament. However, the believers can live this in a spiritual way, but they don't mention at all that this is talking about the Maccabees. So when Father Daoud Lamei says there is a pothole there, and now you can just insert the Maccabees there, he's very smart to do this, but unfortunately it is a negative smartness. It is a deception. All right, now let's come to the fourth point, which is a KO, knockout. What is it? At the end of the 15th chapter of the second Maccabees, the writer himself says the following: this is what happened in the matter of Nicanor. Nicanor was actually the army commander against the Jews at the time of Judas the Maccabee. And since those days, the city, this Jerusalem, has returned to the possession of the Hebrews. And here I also make the conclusion of the speech. So, if I wrote well, and achieved the purpose, then that is what I hoped for. And if I was weakened and shortened, then I did my best. And as drinking wine alone or drinking water alone is harmful, but wine mixed with water sweetens and follows pleasure and joy, same way embellishing speech on this method delights the ear of those who read the authorship. So, in fact, the author himself says, I hope I didn't make a mistake. He said, if everything is alright, this is what I hoped for, but if there is something wrong, I did not mean that. So, out of what the author says, we can see this is actually a knockout. He himself admits that he might made a mistake, but we cannot see this like in any of the canonical books. Anyway, and actually yes, he made some mistakes because there is some historical stuff that we covered in the episode. So please pray for our brother and sister that is still struggling in this stuff and believing in this deception. Pray for the channel. Subscribe to it if you haven't. Share the video with others if you got the guts or the Lord moves you to do so. And give it a like if you think it's worth it. And unless the Lord comes, we'll meet again another episode. May the Lord bless you all. سلام المسيح وكن معكم.